Welcome to the Healthy Living with the Bourgeois podcast, where we bring you along in our journey of being ordinary people trying to live extraordinary lives through health and fitness. I'm your host, Jesse Bourgeois, joined here with my wife. And today is going to be more of a kind of conversational style podcast where we're going to talk about sort of our journey together from dating to engaged and now up to being married for 3.5 years.
Time flies.
Right?
Yeah. Part of the reason we're going to do this one specifically, we've had a lot of people ask us kind of like our story. Like we reunited, got married. It was really fast. So people asked us that. And also like what it's like getting married young, all those kind of questions. So we just figured we would do this podcast.
Yeah. So afterwards, if there's any questions that come up that we don't talk about that you guys are interested in, to an extent, boundaries, people, we'll happily do kind of another one, maybe kind of more like Q&A type of style of anything that we don't cover today in another episode down the road.
Yeah. Let's bounce back to 2018.
2018. So tell me a little bit, what were you doing 2018? What was your life like? What's been going on?
2018, I was hairdressing, waitressing, and looking into doing more schooling. I was feeling kind of like in a rut. Hairdressing was like good because there's always like the artistic side of it where you can like have fun with that. Waitressing, I was just like, hey, like good money maker, nice to see people, but like you can't grow. And I was very much like, I'm big on like being outside your comfort zone because that's where you're going to grow. And that was just like in my head every day of like, I'm not growing. So I was like working with KES to our Kootenai Employment Services here in like looking into like different schooling options and like what need is in our community. So I'm trying to think of like what month it would be if I hadn't quite applied to school yet. I was still kind of like in the process of it. And then I remember I was doing a little photography gig for one of our friends for his graduation. I remember sitting in my car right before, like I pulled up to their house and I got a phone call and it was like, hey, like, do you want to come be a camp leader at like our community complex? And kind of like from that moment, everything changed. So that was like what was happening for me up until that point. So what was happening for you? Because that was when like right after that we reunited. So
yeah. So spoiler, at the rec center, the community complex is where we sort of were reunited in 2018. So leading up to that for me, because you started working there.
Started like July 1st was my first shift.
Okay.
Yeah.
So up to that point. So yeah, so I had been in Kelowna for the last 5 years. So from 2013 into 2018, I was in Kelowna doing my undergraduate degree in human kinetics. So I was back in the summer times, but I'd go back to Kelowna for those sort of periods. And I did 5 years because I did a minor in psychology, just to have a little extra. Psych was actually the original thing I wanted to go to school for. And then it kind of like pivoted in grade 12 to wanting to do human kinetics. And up to that point for me, it was also it's such a transitional stage because I was getting close to finishing my undergraduate degree in the sort of winter going into the spring of 2018. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I had actually gotten a job at a gym in Kelowna, and I was looking into being a summer residence advisor there because I was like, I'll just stay in Kelowna and figure out sort of what my future holds. Mm-hmm. And then one of the ladies that was at the community complex, and in the summers I had come back and personal trained there, and I had some rapport with some of the people that worked there and with my supervisor. She was going on maternity leave starting in the spring. So I had applied for her position to get that maternity leave job at the complex here. And it was like a whirlwind of events because that job started, I want to say near the end of April or in May. I can't remember exactly. And I wasn't finished my finals until basically into May. So when I found out I got the job, I was like, okay, quit the job in Kelowna, pulled my application for summer residence advisor because I was like, I'll go home for a couple of years and figure out what to do, because it was a 2-year temporary position back here in Creston. So I was driving back and forth between Kelowna and Creston to do my courses and my finals in Kelowna and start to go through the training process of this job in Creston. And I actually had to put in a request to my profs at the time to do supervised final exams in other locations, because a couple of the dates for my finals, I wasn't going to be able to make it back and forth. So I did one exam at Selkirk College in Nelson, supervised, and then one at the Creston College. And that's what I finished my university, was actually in this weird kind of chaotic state of learning a new job and going through this. And it still left a big question mark because I had this 2-year temporary job.
Right.
So it's like, what happens after that? Maybe I'll do a master's degree. What's going to happen next? I wasn't really settled in Creston. It was just kind of like, cool, this will help me get my feet on the ground. Good paying job. I'll do this for a couple of years and then figure it out from there. And then started working there, and then all of a sudden summer camps are about to start. And
okay, hold on for one second.
comes in.
Yeah. Relationship wise, in 2018, were you like thinking about relationships at all? Like, were you like anything?
No.
Same. So
definitely not. I had like a string of bad experiences.
Yeah.
And it was this like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, maybe I would go because, UBC has a relationship with some of the universities in Australia and these different things. And I was like, I don't know what's next for me. So there's no point in worrying about relationships at this stage of my life. Yeah. Like, it was just, I'm going to just kind of focus on whatever's next. I had a new job, this type of thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't worried about it.
And same. I was like, in that point in my life, I was like, I'm going to go and start this new career. I'm going to buy my own house. I'm going to be my own like independent woman. Like, I'm fine. Like, it was like so far from that. And then, I remember it would have been June, I guess. I came in, brought my resume in, and they were like, hey, like, do you want to interview like right now? I was like, whoa, okay, cool. So I got like pulled into the office, and then I like walk in, and Jesse's there at his desk. He had like a desk that was like kind of right in the open. And I was like, no way. Like, I didn't even know he was like here and working. And I was like, cool. Like, that's exciting. We went to swimming lessons together when we were kids. We like knew each other. It's funny. Like, you hung out with my cousins all the time. Yeah. Never really crossed paths there, but we would like go to skating together and things like that.
We were both homeschooled, and Creston being a small town, you kind of know the other homeschooled families, and like there's also just only so many young people. Yeah. So it's like I would see you had that like a bright green car, so it sort of sticks out like a sore thumb. So it's like you kind of, there's Chantal driving
and
around. And
Jesse always had his red baseball cap with his little wings.
DC hat.
His DC one. So like we knew each other, right? Like, and throughout the years, when we were younger, there was like crushes, but we were little and like nothing ever happened. And then you moved away, so it was kind of like I kind of like definitely wasn't thinking about you at all. So I walk into the office, you're sitting there, and we both kind of like what, and then I like went into my then supervisor's office, and I got the job on the spot, which was cool. Like, didn't apply for it. Like, it was just so random. And on the phone, like when I got that phone call sitting in that parking lot, they were like, do you want this? And I was like, I wanted to say no. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. It was so like out of my comfort zone. But then that came into my head. I was like, you're the one who says this all the time. So I was like, okay. Like, so I said yes. So I got the job. And then, July 1st was my first shift, and started working together. Like in the same building. Yeah,
we didn't really. I had nothing to do with camps at that point. So we weren't really working together, just like in the same facility, basically. So I just sort of see you around. At that point, I was solely in like the fitness related department. A lot has changed since then. We'll talk about that later. But
we started talking like a lot. I'm trying to think, because we used to like sit outside and have like our lunches together. That would have been before.
That was later.
Was that after like the
Yeah. That was
TikToks
later.
trend?
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward a little bit.
So from July to September, like start of September, we would just sort of cross paths in the office.
Yeah.
Talk about shoes. I showed you running shoes.
He like brought. I was trying to find some like, I don't know if they were gym shoes or running shoes I was looking for, but I
remember.
I was trying to find like ones with like a wide toe box, and Jesse was like, "Oh, like I have a bunch of different brands. Like I can like show you." And he literally brought like a duffel bag full of shoes. Like
I have a lot of shoes. Okay.
I thought you were just crazy. It was so funny. So yeah, you like brought all of your shoes and like let me try them on, and like you were so sweet. Like you were so easy to talk to. Yeah, and then September, Terry Fox run. It'd always be a special day for us. I was working it, and you like showed up to like hang out and run it. And you ran how many laps?
I don't even remember. And this is before I like really was into running.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And so I was working there with another lady at the table, and Jesse, I thought at that point, I thought you worked there like way longer than I have. Like you were in like a manager position, like you were
leadership position. Yeah.
Leadership position. So he was like, I thought he was like way up here, and I was like kind of way down here. So Jesse comes around the corner, and he's like, "Oh, Chantal, like, can I talk to you?" And I thought I was in trouble. Like I thought like
in hindsight, probably not like the most appropriate nor the best place to have this conversation, but
yeah,
it's fine.
But yeah, I thought I was in trouble, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And then I was like, "Yeah, for sure." And then you like walked back, so I was like, "He probably wants to talk to me in the office." And so I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I was like, I had like sweaty palms almost. Like I was like a little bit nervous. I was like in trouble or something. And then walked around the side, and you asked me out. And I did not say no.
but she didn't say yes.
I was very caught off guard. But then Jesse was like, "You don't have to say yes right now, or you don't have to answer right now." And I was like, okay. And we kind of just like left it at that.
Mm-hmm. Which I assumed was a no.
Yeah, I was just very caught off guard. I wanted to say yes in the moment, but I don't know why. I don't know, whatever. But from that moment on, like we never stopped talking.
Yeah.
So
I think it was later that day.
I messaged you on Facebook.
Right.
I remember I came home, and I like went to one of my sisters. I was like, "Oh my goodness, like guess who just asked me out?" I was so excited. Yeah, then we started talking on Facebook that night.
Yeah.
And we never stopped
And then
talking.
every day since then.
Yeah.
Literally hasn't been a day in the last 5 years since that point that we haven't talked.
Yeah.
But.
We'd have like a few picnics at work.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. Crazy.
Yeah.
So like our timeline.
So that was September of 2018.
Yeah.
So for reference.
Yes.
So September 2018, we started talking. December of 2018, December 2nd of 2018 is when we started officially dating.
Yeah. May.
And then, May
18th.
Of 2019. So
yeah.
If you hear a growl in the background, Gus is looking at something. So yeah, May of 2019. So we're talking like 6 months later. We got engaged. And then September 2nd of 2019, we got married. So basically within a 1 year calendar, just under a 1 year timeline.
Yeah.
We started talking all the time.
Yeah.
Started dating, got engaged, got married.
What a whirlwind.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Your side, your friends, all that. What was the response?
Yeah, so I was 24 when we got married. Which it's funny because like I feel like nowadays that seems really young to get married, where historically that probably wouldn't be all that young. And a 1 year time frame also feels very fast compared to sort of culturally what is expected. A lot of people are engaged for a year, even multiple years, and typically know each other for quite a lot of years ahead of time as well. We also didn't live together before we got married.
No.
We didn't move in together until we got married, which is also not super common nowadays either. A lot of people, they live together, you sort of test the waters in a more significant way, I guess, compared to what we did, where we sort of wanted to have that like monumental transition when we got married. So yeah, like a lot of support. Like, don't get me wrong. Everybody was ultimately quite supportive of everything that was going on, but a lot of people definitely had kind of like questions and concerns. It's like, this is really quick. Are you ready for this type of thing? And I think part of it is also sort of like my personality style. I like to laugh. I don't take things all that seriously, which maybe can be mistaken or maybe is a little bit of immaturity. So I think that was also kind of like a question mark for some people as well. Like, are you mature enough to handle, a marriage at this stage in your life? So it was kind of a little bit of the common theme.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. And same, like it was like, they're your family and your friends, like they love you, right? So it's like, it's coming from out of love, but yeah, definitely like lots of concerns, especially like the speed of it. But like, honestly, the phrase has never been so real of like, when you know. And I like, because I said that to so many people, I think you did too, like, but it honestly, like, and it's hard to even explain, but it's like, honestly, when like it was, and it's crazy.
It's interesting because like, it's not an infatuation. It's a different type of thing. Cause it wasn't like we weren't talking about the things that were important to talk to leading up to our engagement, especially like during that time frame.
Lots of tough conversations.
Yeah, a lot of conversations.
Communication.
And I think that sometimes maybe is the piece that when people sort of think of the, like, especially young people, and I think this is what people were thinking when we would tell them this, of like I just know sort of thing. Of like, oh, you're just really into this person, you're attracted to them, you're having fun, all of this sort of stuff. But it wasn't necessarily that. Like, that was a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But it was understanding that for the first time, underlying values were synchronized completely.
Yeah.
Like, there was no question of, if this difficult thing comes up, I don't know what you're going to say or what's going to happen to us, or so on and so forth type of thing. It was like, oh, we might have surface level differences on different things, but the underlying principles of what we value in this life completely go together. And that was something that I had never experienced before. And it was that like, this is that feeling of when because there's no, and even to this day, like, there's nothing that could come in front of us that I don't anticipate we could just have a normal conversation about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, it's not like there's this teetering time bomb in the background of like, oh, if this topic comes up, something's going to like blow up and we're going to have an argument or whatever it might be. Yeah. I don't see anything like that. And I didn't at that point, and I still don't. And I think that was a big reason why there was that feeling of like, this is right.
Yeah.
This is what's meant to be. Yeah.
The two like big things is like communication and trust. And that's honestly like, because everyone was like, oh my goodness, like, it's so fast for you guys. I was like, but those two things are huge. And like, I've never experienced that ever before. Like, so that's another reason is like, we had such open communication from the get-go, and then just so much trust. Like, I feel very blessed, like very like it's amazing. I was going to bounce back to our coffee.
Oh yeah.
When was this? Would it be after, when were you doing your talks?
That would have been, so in that fall period. So maybe like October, November. The weather was still decent.
It was.
So September, October type of thing, probably.
So Jesse asked me out for coffee. Or I can't remember. We decided that we wanted to go for coffee. And we went out. It was like the most comfortable coffee date ever. Like, we never stopped talking. Like, there was always something to talk about. There was no awkward silences. It was weird. Like, yes, I'm outgoing, but I find like we were there for over 4 hours. That's like, that was so eye-opening to me. Where we were, there's like a clock that like had the gong every hour. And I remember hearing it a couple times. I didn't realize how many times it went off, because the lady, the owner, she came around the corner and was like, just so you know, we've been closed for like half an hour, but like, you guys are welcome to stay. And we were like, what? Like, it's 5:30? Like, what? It was crazy. And I remember I left, got in my car, and I was like, this guy is going to be in my life forever. Like, I hope in like a romantic way, but like, you're going to be in my life forever. And I knew in that moment, like it was so special. And then I came to your talk that night. Jesse does like the nutrition talks. And I don't remember at all what you said. But Jesse's like, do you want to come? And I was like, to sit there and look at you while you talk, 100% in there. But yeah, that coffee was like, it was just such a special time. Like it was like, we just clicked. And yeah, like you said, like our values like lined up so nicely. And yeah, that was a big moment. It was cool.
And I think that was one of the first conversations where that became clear that our values were really in line, because it was immediately a deeper conversation. Like there was it wasn't just like, when you like, you sort of like know an acquaintance or you know somebody a little bit, but you don't know them well, and you go for coffee and it's like relatively surface level. Like, oh, tell me about your job. Like, do you like it? What did you do for schooling? How's your family? But like all of those, it was not like that at all. It was like immediately kind of under the surface. But I think it was also partially why that happened is we both understood, like, obviously I was interested in you, and I think that was reciprocated. So I think there was that little bit of kind of like you're feeling it out a little bit of like, how does this person think? What do they, how are they, how much have they thought about these sort of deeper things? Are they clear on it? Does it seem like their stance is honest and so on type of thing? But yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, so that was 2018. Started dating in 2019.
Care engagement.
So our engagement was... so we had talked about it beforehand.
We did.
It was a surprise still, I think. I caught you off guard.
100% a surprise. And like all my family knew, which is, I have a big family.
Yeah, everybody knew.
Nobody gave a hint of anything.
I told everybody.
Which is, I can't believe they kept it a secret. It's amazing. But it was May long in 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was grumpy. Okay, for context. So the next day I had to like work at like a run. We do like a Blossom Festival run over May long weekend. And I had to be up at 5 a.m. And that was before I was like really a morning person, because before Jesse, I was quite the night owl. So we'd be texting and it'd be like 8 o'clock. And Jesse's like, okay, like I'm good night. And I'm like, what? Like, are you kidding me? So yeah, you're very much a morning person. I was not a morning person at all. So the next day I had to get up at 5 and I was like, not going to stay up late that night. And Jesse was like, oh, like, do you want to come play games? So Jesse was renting a place like 2 doors down from my parents' house where I was living. So it was nice. It was nice and close. But yeah, Jesse's like, oh, like tonight, like come over for games. Like my mom and her partner, Marty, like they're gonna be here. Let's play some games. I was like, okay, cool. Totally. I was like, okay, I have to be up at 5 the next morning. I don't want to be out late. And he's like, yeah, no worries. And then I can't remember what time, but I remember it was getting a bit later. I think it was like 7:38.
Yeah.
And I was like, Jesse, like, you know what? Like, because he said he'd text when everyone was over and when they were ready. And it was like 6:30, 7:30. And I was like, hey, like, if it's not going to work tonight, like, no worries. We can play games anytime. And he's like, no, like they really want to play tonight. And I was like, okay, but like, I have to get up early tomorrow. So like, when are they going to get there? Like, what's going on? And
so
I think it was
behind the scenes, everything was getting set up.
Yeah. And it was so funny because I was like in a really cute outfit that day. And then I changed into like jeans and a sweatshirt because I was like going to go play board games. And so finally you text. I can't remember again what time, but it was like...
It was getting late.
It was getting late. So, because, yeah, I was... I can't remember exactly what time, but it was late enough that I was like, why are we still playing them? Like, can't we just play any other time? So I'm like walking over there and I'm like, I'm grumpy. Like, I had to be up early. Like, I had to wait around. I was like, what is going on? So like finally get there, and the place you're renting had like a door into like a porch area and then the door into like the house. And so I like opened the first door and your mom greeted me, and she had like the biggest smile on her face, but like I don't know where I was. Didn't really realize it. She gives me the biggest hug and she's like, oh, we're just going to grab the games. I was like, okay, sounds good. And whatever. Open the next door. And then Jesse's there. He has like lined candles, and he's standing at the end of there with a huge sign saying, "Will you marry me?" So it was so sweet, so romantic. I wasn't grumpy anymore. It was very sweet.
It was really special.
Yeah, and then like your mom and Marty came in and we like celebrated. It was very special. And I was so shocked. Like I had no idea. Because we were talking about it quite a bit. And like we were even talking about like rings and things like that. But yeah, no idea. And none of my family like gave any hint. Like I was really proud of them actually.
Yeah. One of the things we'll talk about at some point a little bit later on, but I like to I have a hard time with things being sporadic. To me, it feels chaotic. So the whole engagement thing was like this fine line of like planning and I think also maybe a little bit of reassurance for myself, but also keeping it a surprise, because we had talked about a lot of things. I had kind of picked your brain about like, what style of rings do you like things like that, to make sure that I wanted things to go well, right? But I'm glad that it worked out in such a way that it was a surprise, and there was a lot going on that weekend as well. So I think that partly kind of threw you off a little bit. But yeah, it was awesome.
It was.
And that was May. So that was May, and then I don't actually remember how we settled on a date for the wedding.
We were talking about...
Was it schooling? That kind of was a bit of... Because you started your schooling on the honeymoon.
I did.
I think that was part of it.
One of my semesters, yeah. I had already started. Because we had like 2 dates. It was either like that
fall or the next spring,
or
right?
like June, because we wanted outdoor wedding. So that was part of it. It was like we didn't want to do spring, we didn't want to do winter, so it was either like have it right away and in September, or like wait until the next summer. Really glad we didn't wait. Because
remember 2020?
Yes. So yeah, it was such a whirlwind, because it was like mid-May. And then we got married like September 2nd. So it was...
Yeah, we had less than 4 months to plan.
Yeah, and we were both working full time. I was doing school. Like, it was just a gong show. But it went like... Everything fell into... Because, okay, here was the other thing, was like, we got engaged fast. And then everyone, again, were like out of love, but like had their concerns of like, why don't you guys just like wait and all this stuff. But then again, it was like, when you know, like, let's just start our life. Like, we're ready. Like, we've had... pretty much all the tough conversations, like again, we were on the same page with everything. So we're like, we were ready. And so, yeah, like it was really fast. But what I was saying is like, there's so many thoughts, all the memories, they're so everywhere. Everything fell into place, like so effortlessly. Like, it was wonderful.
Well, there was some effort. We had a lot of sitting there conversations of figuring it out.
I felt like the little things, like the big things, like our clothes, like my dress,
for sure,
our venue, the food, like those big things, photography, like those things got like checked off, and we were like, wow, cool. And then it was all like the little things. Yeah,
we hustled through it pretty good. The venue took a little bit of time because we visited at least 2 other spots.
Yeah. Because we wanted everything to be outdoors. Like, I didn't want to be inside at all, but everyone was like, contingency plan, like, what if it rains? Right. And so it was like, okay, we need some... Because the places that we looked at, there wouldn't have been an option for inside. So that was hard. Yeah,
and like kitchen, like catering considerations, all of that kind of stuff.
Like that kind of thing.
Was, trying to figure out... one thing that was a huge benefit was that so many of your siblings had already gotten married. And not in a lot... not like a long time before us, like relatively recently. So they still had a lot of really good ideas and like things to keep in mind of like, oh, don't forget about this, remember that kind of thing, which was super helpful, having people around that had like just recently gone through planning a wedding was really, really helpful.
Yeah. It was like the little things afterwards that were like more time consuming than we thought would be. And then like little details of like, it's hard because it's your day, so you have to make the decision. But at the same time, it's like, who cares? Like, it's like just a little detail. But then at the same time, it was a little bit tricky. Yeah.
And we're also like, I was a year into starting working after university. So all of the student debt, like we were very much on a budget. So it wasn't like we could just, for the food, hire a catering service that does everything. So we were trying to figure out, you know, we were paying for cheap serving dishes and things like that. So like there's a lot of little things that we were trying to do just to like alleviate expenses, like stuff from the dollar store, little things to try to make it still, you know, like special and not tacky, but sort of like as budget as possible.
Mm-hmm. And like family helped out so much.
Yeah.
Like it was
crazy.
Like we wouldn't have got everything all done without like our families and friends. Like it was amazing. And like the day just like flew by.
Yeah.
Like I remember
went by so fast.
Like my cousin he was the MC and we like told him the time that we wanted like our send off. And I remember because he came up and was like, hey, like send off is in 5 minutes. I was like, are you kidding? Like I haven't even eaten my cake. Yeah. I was like, no way. But like we did want to stick to that timeline because then like for cleanup and everything, because it was outdoors. Like we didn't want everyone to be out there in like the middle of the night. But yeah, like the day just like flew by. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was busy. It was a whirlwind. The whole thing was like busy in a whirlwind because at the same time as we're planning the wedding, we're also planning the honeymoon because we took a day in between. So we had like a day to just sort of like chill out and regroup and eat food. And then the next day after that, we went on our honeymoon. So there's this like multiple planning sort of all at the same time. And again, even with our honeymoon, similar to the wedding where we didn't like pay for packages of things to get done. Yeah. We kind of like put together. You should stop saying we.
Jesse did all of it. I wasn't like, I knew what we were doing, but you did all the planning.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Which was really fun. Like we chose instead of going like flying somewhere and like staying at an all-inclusive or something like that. We wanted to explore some of the kind of local destination locations. You know, stay within Canada. One, it was just a little bit more familiar, a little bit less stressful than like catching flights and different things like that. And also just, I don't know how to put it. Like, in my experience, like I've had so many positive like road trip experiences, getting to know people and all these different things. And it just felt like a really nice way for us to like have just relaxing downtime together where we could just, so much leading up to the wedding had been about the wedding and all this sort of stuff that we hadn't really had a lot of time just to hang out, just us. So I remember that being a consideration of like, we finally have time just to talk and hang out and just do what we want to do on our own timeline. Yeah. So we did sort of a big kind of like tour around the like west side of Alberta all the way to across BC and then back to Creston.
It was so fun.
It was super fun.
For like budget and also like the adventure of it. So like we would stay at a really fancy place and then we stayed in a hostel and then we'd stay like in a really fancy place and then we camped and then it was like, but it was perfect. Like it was so much fun. There was so much adventure.
Yeah, it was I
wouldn't change it at all. Like
you were such a good sport about
it was so fun. It was really good.
How do you win on a budget?
It was perfect.
That's the thing is like I wanted novelty is such a cool part of travel and life. So that was a big piece of it of like we could do middle of the road the whole honeymoon, or we could visit some of these extremes. So we did like our first night was in this like little motel in Radium. And it was still really cute. That actually worked out really well. And we brought our bikes and just like biked around Radium and got pizza and went to the hot springs and just kind of like chilled out. Then we went camping in Kananaskis. It was camping, but it was kind of like glamping because it's all set up for you in this like teepee type of thing, which is also really fun. Yeah. But it like got cold and rainy and
weird.
And there was like potentially a horse that got killed in the night.
Do horses scream? It
screamed and then just dead silence.
Like I was like, hey, like at least we've had like a couple good nights. Like, this is a couple days together. Like this is how we're going out.
And this thin fabric teepee to
so weird.
Keep us safe. Yeah, that was. And then we like hung out in Banff for the next day, and then we went up to Revelstoke. Stayed in a hostel the first night that had like a broken front door where the bed like touched the walls. We had the the Egyptian room. So there was like pyramid wallpaper on the one wall. And then after that, we stayed at, we had more of like the fancy where we had,
We're gonna
we're going to pause for a second. Gus is getting feisty. And we're back. Gus needed some attention. So we did like the hostel in Revelstoke, and then we moved into more of like sort of nicer accommodations. We stayed at the mountain resort in Revelstoke and got some passes and did all the fun sort of adventures up there. And then we went to Sparkling Hill in Predator Ridge near Vernon and did 3 nights there. 3 nights there, which was awesome. Like all the spas and the pools and everything. It was really cool. And then we went up to Whistler and stayed at Blackcomb, like right on the mountain, like right on the mountain.
Yeah.
Did a Spartan race. Yeah. Then we stayed in Inkneep in Soyuz.
Yeah.
And again, a really nice place. That was actually,
it
was super budget friendly, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then came home. So it was like,
Did you say Lake Louise?
2 weeks. Oh, and that was on the way.
After camping.
Yes.
Or the day.
No, on the way to camping.
On the way to camping.
Yeah. Between Radium and Kananaskis. We went to like Lake Louise.
Yeah.
Went to Banff. We went to Canmore. Went to a bunch of different kind of like little places in between. Mm-hmm. But it was a lot of fun. A lot of places I had never been, even though growing up around here.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool now because whenever we do road trips, it just like reminds us of our honeymoon, it's always such a good memory. Like we love road trips. It's so
it was a blast.
Fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And just like the right amount of like relaxing time, adventures. Mm-hmm. Like it was the best of everything. Like it was so much fun. Like I said, I wouldn't change it at all. It was so good.
I think for us, especially, like I don't think either of us does particularly well with little stimulation of like just kind of sitting around hanging out. We might be able to do that for like a couple days. Yeah. Like Sparkling Hill was great. It was like 3 days of really nothing, but we still went outside and hiked around because we got bored and wanted to go outside. Yeah. So it was like, I think that type of like kind of transition and hiking and biking and doing different things was perfect for us. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So that was the fall of 2019.
Yes.
And then October of 2019 is when we had the first 2 new members of our family joined us.
Yes, Phoebe and Michi.
Yeah, so our 2 kitties came into our lives.
So the reason, I like cats. I never was a cat person. Growing up, we always just had outdoor cats. Like they're cute, like you pet them. They're a cat.
They're a cat.
So the place we were living had mice.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, like we need to get a mouser. Like we need a cat.
We caught a mouse in our bedroom.
So that was the last
final straw because we were catching them like underneath,
kind of like underneath the sink.
Yeah, like by the stove.
Yeah,
but
it was like in broad daylight we were catching
brutal.
them, and then like the one morning we woke up and there's like a mouse in the trap. I was like, "Okay, I'm done."
Yeah.
So we went to the pet store, and there was 2 kitties, and they were sisters. So we were like,
just to back up a little bit, why that worked out was Chantal's sister was working at the pet store, so she let us know like, "Hey, I heard you guys wanted cats. There's 2 sisters here." Yeah. Come check them out, kind of thing.
So we went and we're like, we can't split them up. Like they were cuddling together. Like they were so cute. So we're like, let's just get both. So we got both. A month later, we moved.
Yeah, they didn't. I mean, obviously, like in hindsight, kittens are going to take care of mice.
No,
like that's not how it works.
I think they were like too young, taken from their mother, anyways, because there was a lot that like we had to help out with, and like they didn't really know how to do a lot of things. Like they were so little.
They're just
they
babies.
Were like a little bit bigger than the mice, so they were so tiny.
There were some other issues with that rental location as well.
So another opportunity came up. So it was like a month later that we moved into our next spot.
So
it was like
December 1st.
December 1st. So the cats, and like where we were living, there was like tons of like raccoons and skunks. And so we were like, okay, like they're really little still, like we don't really want them outside. So we built them like a catio, and they would be like indoor, outdoor. Mm-hmm. And of course, like it was great. There was no mice. There was no, like, they caught like bugs and brought them inside. So like for them, like fast forwarding to buying a house, we had a mouse in this house, and they're so not mousers because I thought it would be instinctual. Apparently not. They like took a step back so the mouse could run by. So they're little indoor princesses, but we love them so much. And it's cool having like your own cat. Like they greet us at the door. they like try to communicate with us. Like they're such big cuddlers. Like I'm surprised they're not on our laps right now. Like at night, in the morning, like it's so sweet. Like they're very sweet.
It was really cool to have pets of our own, because I think we both had family pets growing up and different things.
It's a lot different. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot different. And you see the uniqueness of each of them as individuals, their individual personalities, their likes, their dislikes, the different behaviors that they have.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they were raised essentially the same.
Yeah.
We didn't really do anything different with either one of them, and they're so different.
So different.
And it was really cool to go through that experience and moving with them. And like the first place we were in was 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, like still not a big place. The place we moved to in December of 2019 was very small. So it was very close quarters with them and with each other, because it was like a little basement suite. So that was also really neat to have like such an intimate living situation with them, like going kind of through that experience with them, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then, so that was December 2019. And then we went into 2020.
Yeah. March
2020 hit. You had started working for the school district.
I was working at
that
school.
point.
Yep.
Spring break comes. By the end of spring break, 2 weeks after, schools don't reopen. I think about a week after that, or two weeks after that, something like that.
Yeah.
Rec center closes.
I got laid off.
You got laid off. I was able to keep working from home, thankfully.
Yeah. They put out a thing for all the hairdressers and like cosmetologists that you're not allowed to do that. They said for like 2 months.
Yeah.
So I couldn't. And living in a small town is hard because people are like, oh, can you just cut my hair? Like I won't tell anyone. I was like, we live in a really small town. Like people are going to know you got your hair cut. I'm not going to lose my license because that's what they said. Like if you're not going to listen, like you're going to lose it, which like, yeah.
Yeah, and it was really hard to know what was going to happen, how long this was going to take, like what was going on. I think when we originally closed, the idea was for like a couple of weeks or something like that. But then, so COVID-19 hit that summer of 2020. And it feels a little bit weird saying this, given how, I think traumatic in a way that year was for so many people, was awesome for us.
It was amazing.
It seems weird to say that, given like how everyone is. People are shooting eye daggers at us right now, but newly married couple working a whole bunch, all of a sudden stuck at home all summer long.
Yeah,
it was great. Awesome. We just got to hang out all summer and like just enjoy each other's company, and like we couldn't really do a lot, obviously, but we could still, like wander down the lake and go have lake days and just suntan on the lawn and just kind of do what we wanted to do all summer. It was actually really cool for us.
It was really fun.
We like set up, we had the tiniest little basement suite, and I brought like these squat stands, and we were like squatting in our little living room in the basement. So we would like work out every day, have breakfast together. I would work, you'd kind of do your thing. But it was actually really special summer. It was kind of cool. That it drug on for 2 more years, but that summer before everything kind of reopened was actually really neat.
It was really fun.
For 2020. And it also gave us a chance to get a head start on saving for a house, because there was so little going on. You kind of didn't have a choice but to save. And again, we were in a very privileged position that I was able to keep working. I didn't get laid off. You were able to get back to work pretty quickly. It wasn't too long that you were off. So we're very fortunate that way, in that it wasn't a large financial burden for us. And I know that's obviously not the case for a lot of people. Not that it didn't come with its own consequences. Like I had my own rented gym space prior to that. Yeah. That all came to a crash sort of during that time. I had to, cancel my rent and move all my gym equipment and pull everything out of that. So there's obviously it wasn't the best thing in the world by all means, but I feel like we were able to make the most of it, which was pretty cool. And 2020, I'm trying to think of, that's also when we started running, because the gyms were closed.
Yes.
So we went to Cranbrook and bought some running shoes.
Yep.
And that kind of kicked off our running journey.
It did.
That lasted for kind of 2 years, pretty steady, which was pretty neat.
That was cool.
So then 2020, I'm trying to think of what else sort of happened in 2020. 2020, COVID happened in the summer, late summer. You got your wisdom teeth out.
Oh, right.
I got her a chipmunk mug from a place in Kelowna.
Back up, you had your
Oh yeah,
so it was like the year of
it was the year of
surgeries
surgeries in 2020 of COVID. I had a pharynglossal duct cyst. So when your thyroid forms in your neck, I guess what can happen is a little pocket can form beside it. And then if you have an infection, whether it's like a upper respiratory tract infection or something like that, sometimes it can fill that pocket with fluid. So I had what looked like a weirdly large Adam's apple. If you look at our wedding photos, because there's quite a few of those, you can see it in our wedding photos. Not harmful by any means, but sometimes in rare occasions they become cancerous or they can calcify. Problems can arise. So you want to get it out when you can. The surgery got delayed, I think only once.
I think just once, yeah.
And then I was able to get in the summer of 2020 to get that out. So they like cut across your neck and then they fold it up and then there's a little bone in your throat and they like scrape it off of your
They might not want to hear this.
I think it's neat. And then they sew it up. So when you see me, if you look at my neck, you might notice there's a scar that runs across my throat. So you took good care of me from that. I binge watched Down to Earth with Zac Efron and that while I was in recovery because I couldn't do anything. Like when your neck is healing, like you can't lift weights. Like turning my head was kind of uncomfortable. I couldn't run because I couldn't get my blood pressure up, or the jolting was also really uncomfortable. I think it was like a couple days before I even went for a walk. Not terribly fun.
Yeah.
But
and then it was September because it was around our anniversary.
Yeah.
I had to go to Kelowna for my wisdom teeth. I don't remember a lot of it because I was just like knocked out and then got it done. Yeah. But it was fun. We got to like celebrate our anniversary the day before.
Yeah.
And then had the surgery and then like came home that day.
Yeah. And it was nice. Like things were there wasn't a lot we could do at that point. Like COVID was still very much a thing and there were lots of precautions still being taken. Yep. But we were able to like hike Knox Mountain. We got like frozen yogurt, stuff like that. Like it was still a really good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was 2020. Into 2021, we basically had been trying to save and had started sort of seriously looking for a house starting in 2021. Yep. That was kind of when we got serious about it, where I was like, hey, this might be a thing that we can pull off if we sort of play our cards right. And we had started talking about getting a dog, but we didn't want to be renting when that happened. Yeah. And in 2020, I had my temporary position extended. 2019 or 2020? I'm forgetting the year, but the person I was covering on maternity leave came back and came into a new role. So then the job that I was filling temporarily was vacant. And then they extended that temporary position, but sort of with kind of an understanding that I wasn't really going anywhere. Like, yes, it was a temporary role, but it was likely I was going to continue to be employed by the regional district. So it started to seem likely that we were settling down here. Yep. So then the house journey kind of kicked off of like, hey, I think Creston's going to be where we're going to be for the next while. This job is going pretty good. Let's sort of settle down and start seeing if we can get into the market.
Worst time ever.
Yeah, right. So yeah, not great.
Bananas. Because we looked at a couple places. It was hard like being first time buyers in that kind of market. Because it's either like, because we didn't want like a huge fixer upper, but for our budget, it was like that's what you kind of get, or like something super, super tiny. Like it was hard. And we put an offer on like one place.
Go a little. Yeah.
Oh, we put an offer in on one place and we were like super excited. It was like the first time we put in an offer and we're like, yeah, this is awesome. And then we get a call from a realtor and it was like, you guys didn't stand a chance. Like the people going up against you, they like came in with like 40 grand extra. Everything was cash, no conditions, like just crazy. Very discouraging, like being first time buyers. Didn't have like a ton of money to put down for like a deposit. Like we just we're in our young 20s. Like it was hard, but we kept looking. We had an amazing realtor who was like looking out for us. A few other spots. I can't remember how many we looked at, but we looked at quite a few.
Yeah, we looked at a couple, and we were in that weird high 200,000, low 300,000 range, where a lot of stuff was older, needed some work. And I'm the furthest thing from a handyman. I do not have that skill set. That's not something that I bring to the table. I apologize. So I was very concerned about purchasing a home that required a lot of work, beyond like wants. Anything that was a need I was very cautious about committing to something like that, because it was like, I just don't have those skills. So we're going to be relying on other people. And thankfully we have people on our...
Gus would like
Gus would like us to speed up to where he comes into the picture.
Yeah. He has a lot to say.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, bud. We're just gonna ride this out for a second. So it was a balance, and a lot of things, prices were a lot higher just because of the crazy market that we were experiencing during that time. And a lot of people were moving from sort of like Calgary, Alberta, and Lower Mainland and Vancouver to these rural areas. So it was an interesting market to try to navigate during that time.
Mm-hmm. And then this place popped up.
Yeah.
Realtor let us know. The next day we came and looked at it, and it was basically like, if you guys want it, let me know by later this afternoon. Yeah. It's like, that's a huge decision.
Yeah.
But it's like such a great house, great location. Like, it's really, really cute. That's obviously not the only reason why, but like there's lots of pros to this house.
Mm-hmm. We had a whiteboard that we had put on a checklist of the things that we wanted our house to include.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was a big thing for us, because it was like, some of you may be familiar with this, but there's this idea of the blue zones, which is really cool. It's these areas around the world where there's high levels of people who live to be in their hundreds, and they're called the blue zones. And National Geographic sort of sponsored research studies related to this. There's been like some books, and different people have dedicated a lot of time to understanding what is it about these areas that contributes to these people living these long lives, but not only long lives, but happy lives and good quality of life throughout the duration of their lives. So we made kind of an adapted blue zone type of checklist for our house that included, walking proximity to work and grocery stores, walking proximity to parks and recreation, so trails, mountains, things like that. And then other little things like a fenced in yard, in an area that obviously is like safe, certain demographics. It would have been nice if it was in an area, that has sidewalks. That was a big piece. Yeah. Bike lanes would have been great. Creston doesn't really have any bike lanes. Come on, Creston, get with it. Things like that. There was all these sort of like, we kind of adapted this thing into able to have a garden, stuff like that, that we wanted in a house. And this checked most of the boxes. Yeah. Not quite all of them, but the majority of them.
Most of them.
There was a few things that, but I mean, you have to compromise.
Yeah.
Realistically,
yeah.
With the budget that we had, we understood that it was going to come down to sort of like compromising the most important things, and also just the sort of future potential resale value, things that we could utilize to sort of benefit our future. Mm-hmm. And that was the summer of 2021.
Spring of
2021.
Because we moved in May.
Right. Yeah.
Which is crazy that it's almost been 2 years.
Yeah. Just shy of 2 years in this house.
Flew by.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
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 It's funny because I think of 2020, 2021 into 2022, it seems like there wasn't, so much was happening, so many little things. It's hard to put a finger on it. So you were working for the school district, and then you started this new job this past year, because that would have been 2022 that you started technically working for this new position. You also got you took over summer camps for the regional district and completely ran summer camps. My job's changed two times since then. Just so many little things, tons of trips, like lots of little adventures all the time. It's just so many things to sort of remember and to think about.
And then fast forward a little bit, 2021 to the fall. This is where Gus comes into the picture. Because we had a spark, so we were able to pick him up because we went and like saw the puppies. Gus picked us. He like came to me,
picked you, yeah,
and then we put him back, and because he had kind of like a fenced off little pen, and then we stepped out because we were like, hey, we want like, because you hear about like dogs picking their people, so yeah, like stepped in, and Gus like came right over to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, so cute. So I was like, okay, no, I got to try it again though. Put him back. He went to you, and then he came back to me, and he was just like the goofiest little thing. Like he
so
was
funny.
Like laying in his water dish and like splashing and like laying in his food dish and eating. Like he was just like so goofy, and like he was the second biggest out of the litter, so he's just like this clumsy little thing. Like it was so cute. So we picked him, and we could pick him up at obviously like 8 weeks. We had a Spartan race in Red Deer that weekend, so we asked if we could wait till like 9 weeks to get him. That Spartan race was awesome.
That's what you won. That's what you got first.
Yeah, because we did the 10K the first day.
10K the first day,
which is kind of cool because then we got to like see the course, and like it's Red Deer's so much fun. And then the second day we get up, and so much fun. Like we totally like I totally fueled wrong because we got up early and got there like an hour. It was like a couple hours early, and I like didn't. I remember giving you like my gummies to like put in like the check bag. So like I didn't even have like fuel like for the race. It was a 5K, and I was like, oh, I'll be fine. But I was like, my stomach was growling. Like it was just, and I couldn't catch my breath like the whole race. Like it was just crazy. Because for the 5K we did age group. So Jesse was competing with his age group. I was competing with mine. So we kind of like start off on the start line, but then we kind of just like go our separate race to do our own race. But the whole time I was like, run your own race. Like don't get too competitive and crazy because I can. But yeah, it was so crazy because you beat me by a little bit. Obviously you're faster than me. And so you were there at the finish line when I came through, and it was so exciting. And I like looked over, and it looked like it's so hard to tell ages nowadays. Cause I like running through, it's like people look like they're your age, like you don't know. So when I crossed the finish line, I was like so excited, but then I saw like a bunch of girls that like looked my age. So I was like, okay, like whatever. And then, we went and checked like the roster thing, and it was like my name was first. I was like, what? Like it was so much fun.
This is really cool.
It was so cool, and it was just such an exciting trip because it was like the race, hanging out. So like we had like a little trip on the way up. We stayed in Canmore one of the
Canmore
nights.
for a night.
We made it a little vacation, and then on our way home, it was like we're going to pick up a puppy. Like the cats were so not stoked. So like we were gone for it was like 3 or 4 nights. I think 3 nights, like 4 days. Came home. The cats were like so excited to see us. The next morning, we like go and leave again for a few minutes, and we bring home a puppy, and they were like, "What the heck?" Like they were not stoked. But yeah, September 2021, Gus came into our lives, and he's been amazing. He's hit 90 pounds.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
In a year and a half.
He's a big boy. Yeah.
Crazy.
And it's been really cool. It's been
so much fun.
It really does change. Like cats are pretty independent.
So easy. Yeah.
There's really, you don't have to do a whole lot. Like when they want to hang out, they'll come and hang out with you. When they don't, they just do their own thing. And you don't have to take a lot of, there's not a lot of like training and different things beyond the basics of like getting them not to use their claws and different things when they're kittens, when they like jump up on you and different things like that. But for the most part, they're pretty straightforward. It's not that hard with cats. A dog is so different. Like it really did change. Our daily structure has never been the same.
No.
It completely changed how we do everything that we do. Like when it comes to travel, when it comes to any considerations for plans or for days, and not in a negative way, but in a way where now we just have this other responsibility for Gus. But it's probably been one of the best things for us. Like when we moved into this house, like I mentioned, that checklist thing of like walking distance to all these things, we didn't walk much. Like we would walk into town to get ice cream. And like we weren't doing a lot of walking. I have like, yes, we were getting into running at this time, but it's really easy for me just to like hit the gym and sit and not do a lot of walking and different things like that. Now it's like we're out in nature multiple times a day, walking with Gus all over the place. And like when we travel now, we break up our travels and we walk and check things out, and it's made our adventures a lot more outdoorsy as well, which is really neat. I love that it's encouraged us in that way to live a life that's more kind of aligned with what I think we want to do, but what is easy to sort of fall out of tune with.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, and then it's a blur. 2022 hit. 2022 went by, I think, faster than any other year that we've had together. So many little, and I think part of it was like our summers were busy. My job changed in August, and all the lead up to that. You were doing summer camps, weddings. We had Gus. So it was just like, and then
take care of
races,
like,
travels. Yeah, dealing with sort of getting used to having a house and all the responsibilities that come with that. So many little things kind of through 2020, but it went by quite quickly. 2022 was also the start of it, is when we went back to eating a full plant-based diet.
Yeah.
That was that transition, January 1st, 2022, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing year. And I think 2022 was a year where I think some of our values got tested to how we want to, to what extent are we going to make decisions to live aligned with them? And I think kind of 2021 shifting into 2022 was really a big year for that. And we'll probably talk more about some of those specifics in upcoming podcasts. But that was a really kind of, that was the most monumental piece of those, that kind of 2021, December, January into 2022 was just some difficult conversations around, you know, what decisions are we going to take and how are we going to live our life to make sure that it is sort of aligned with who we want to be and with the values that we hold closely and that we share. It was really neat. It was very cool.
It was cool. We did like quite the deep dive into that.
It was really neat.
It was nice to like have like that time to do it. 'Cause we went deep. Like it was really cool.
Yeah. And there was a lot going on at that time that kind of led into that, but it was kind of cool because in a way, like when you get married and we got the house and all of this sort of stuff, it's so exciting. There's so much going on that you're kind of, you're focused on the things that you're doing, not necessarily like who you are in those things that you do, if that makes sense. So I feel like when things started to sort of slow down and then some of the stuff sort of came up, it became more about not so much like we sort of know what we like to do together and like the little trips and these types of things. But then it was more like in the day to day and in these little things, you know, how are we going to be as people in these decisions that we do, and how are we going to prioritize different sort of things within our life and make those challenging decisions. And it was cool because it reaffirmed what we sort of said earlier about there wasn't really any question that our values were aligned, because making those decisions weren't easy because of decision, but were easy to talk about. Like it wasn't difficult for us to have those conversations. They were just difficult things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it was cool. So 2022 was a special year. It was very, very neat.
And now we're into 2023.
Yeah, 2023.
It's crazy. And our summers are it's already
planned. Yeah.
Which is good. Lots to like look forward to. Like I find this time of the year, like
March is
waiting for that spring and summer and the warm. So it's nice to have something to look forward to, and we do have quite a bit this summer to look forward to, which I'm excited about. But yeah, what is there anything? So like, very grateful for like our life, our marriage, what we had, like our house, our animals. It's been amazing. Like absolutely no complaints, absolutely nothing out change. Like it's been it's been amazing.
All in the matter of 4.5 years.
I know, it's crazy.
Right.
It's fun to like do this because it's like, yeah, time flies, but it's like when you actually stop and think about all the things that we've done, like we've done a ton. Like it's been fun. But like changes, obviously, like from back in like 2018 to now, like, is there anything that you've found that have like been like the biggest transitions for you, or like?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like, I'm trying to think of how to, okay. So when I hurt my back in August of last year, right? 2022. And during that time, cause I was couch ridden, I had been posting like, ask me questions and different things like that. And one of the questions that came up was like, what was it like getting married like so young type of thing? When we were outlining this podcast, that was like one of the questions that we sort of brought back when we were talking about this. And we were talking about like, yeah, that transition and all these sorts of things. It's interesting because like when you are in your early 20s, you're still learning a lot about yourself and different things. And I had, because of the sort of behaviors that I had in high school, like partying a lot when I was young, a lot of bad habits, different things like that, the gym and daily structure became really important to me to pull myself out of those different sort of bad habits. So like you had mentioned earlier, like I would go to bed incredibly early because I would get up very early to work out. And it was also a way to create structure in my life that prevented me from really partying and doing these other things. Because it was like, I go to bed at 8:30 every night so I can get up at 3:30 or 4 to go and work out. And like that had sort of become my lifestyle and sort of my life. And if I'm speak on your behalf, but you had a bit of a different schedule. Like you were more of a night owl. You liked being up late, and that was sort of your creative time and different things. Yeah. So there's all these like little compromises and different things to sort of figure things out. I'm a little bit more maybe of a planner. You like to be a little bit more spontaneous with things. Yeah. And something that was really interesting, I had coffee with a friend the other day, and we were talking about sort of like roles within a marriage. And in talking with him, I was like, yeah, like totally. Like I feel like we have like kind of the roles that we fulfill within our marriage and different things. And in hindsight, now that I think about it a little bit more, it's like, I don't know if that's really the case, because we both, it's not like you do something and I do, we share almost every task. Yeah. It's more of sort of teamwork and navigating schedules in a way that we can support each other in our endeavors. Yeah. And I think that's worked phenomenally well for us. We split, like we split up the cleaning, we split up the cooking, we split up the dog walking, the different tasks, sort of depending on what each person is going through. It's not like that's just what you do and this is what I do. And I actually think that's been super helpful for us to navigate some of these things to create sort of this life balance. I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but it's really cool to sort of reflect on how we've created a system that works for us. And yeah, it's really neat. And I think with the early morning thing, like we don't get up quite as early, but we still have a morning routine that works great for me and that I really appreciate. And I think we also sort of, on the weekends, we're not overly strict about it though. We'll have some flexibility, which hopefully gives you a little bit of some of the things that you enjoy.
Like creative time. Yeah, absolutely.
So what about for you? Like what comes to your mind with
definitely,
that type of thing?
Kind of like what you mentioned, like I'm definitely more spontaneous. You're definitely more of a planner. But I think like at the beginning we were kind of like too far on those sides. And now like thinking about like going into this year, I feel like we've like balanced each other out. Because you are like, there are times where you're spontaneous and I am trying to like plan more, and it's worked. Like it's better that way now. Yeah, definitely like the morning and like the night owl thing. That was probably like one of the biggest things for me. Cause yeah, Jesse was like, Kate, cause there was a time where we were getting up at 4. Yeah. We were getting up at 4 and 4:30 in the morning. And like, it was so hard at first. I was like, there's no way. And then like, I hate going to bed early. Like, I just hated it. Especially, like, in the summertime, if it's still light out. Jesse's like, hey, like, yeah, it's, like, this time or whatever. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, the sun's still out. Like, that was hard.
Just get into your cave.
Right? Yeah. But it's funny because, like, we were so busy that, like, we would go to bed at that time and we were exhausted. So it was easy to fall asleep right away, which was good. And now it's funny because I like get upset if it's light out before I get up, because I really enjoy the mornings now. And like for us, this time of our life, our relaxing downtime, read a book, have a cup of coffee is the mornings. It didn't always used to be like that when Gus was younger. He was very much like, okay, up at like 4 or 5, take me for a walk right now. Like he was pretty crazy when he was little, very excited to like get out and do stuff. But he's kind of matured a bit more that he's such a teenager right now, you guys. Oh my goodness. We'll get up at 5 right now and he'll like get up, like say good morning, and then just like go sleep until like 8:30. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's so funny. So that like his transition and like his maturity has like kind of changed our schedule a little bit, that the mornings are like more relaxing. But yeah, I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, things like it's been like effortless. I find like it's that communication, the trust, like the teamwork, like Jesse said, like it's that I'm so grateful for. Like I was even like in 2018, even when we started dating, it was kind of like people would be like, oh, like his chores, her chores, like things like that. Like I would be outside mowing and people were like, oh, like you're outside mowing, like why isn't Jesse? And I was like, well, he doesn't really like it, I love it, like why can't I do it? He would like he cooks more than I do, and it works. Like it works for us. Like it's been like that teamwork. We always joke with each other, like teamwork makes the dream work, and it really does. Like it's been easy. Like I'm very grateful. It's been really good.
Me too. And I think we've brought a lot of open-mindedness into our relationship and into the structure of our relationship, which I think is really, really neat. Because like something that like I'm extremely grateful to you for is like I've had this really since 2017, this sort of ethical want to eat a plant-based diet. And like for a while it was kind of like wavering in and out. Like that's a whole nother journey that we'll talk about for another day. But you adjusted to that really quickly, and because we have our values aligned, it became something that you not just were putting up with, but that you also wanted to do. So that was really special for me, because food is something that can be really challenging for people to sort of navigate within a relationship, especially if they have like, something you do every day, right? Yeah. So that was really neat. And I feel like we've brought that open-mindedness into our relationship in a handful of different ways of like, you know, how we set up our home and all these different things that we do. And Gus is pawing at Chantel. He's like, you guys have been talking for too long. It's time to pay attention to me. Yeah. But yeah, we had a slight pause to handle Gus, but that open-mindedness within our relationship, I think has been really special to navigate, you know, any differences in lifestyle or in, you know, the way that we structure our day-to-day lives, that has come our way. Cause that really is the biggest thing, is like how you live your everyday life is how you live your life. It's not the, you know, the trips or the novel experiences. It's that day-to-day routine. So anyways, we'll wrap it up there for today. This may have been a long one, so this might be part 2 of 2. But if you have one of our goals with this was that it might spark questions, or it will help kind of paint the broader picture, that then if there's things that you're interested in, you can ask questions about, particularly like, again, in that sort of healthy living realm. Let us know, and then we'll get sort of deeper into any of these topics. But it's also just an opportunity to sort of introduce us as who we are as a couple, and a bit of our story. So we look forward to any questions that any of you have, and we'll do maybe a Q&A sort of rolling off of this podcast, answering those questions that you have. All right, we'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.